on YouTube, LinkedIn, X. Um, we're also live on LinkedIn too. So if you're in the chat, if you're listening live, feel free to say hi in the chat, drop your questions and everything. Today, we are going to be talking about the rise of AI influencers on Instagram and TikTok specifically. And then we'll also dive into a really interesting ad that Brendan will share with us. So, the first topic that we're going to talk about is the rise of AI generated influencers. This is a really interesting topic that has really just gained traction over the last couple of years with the rise of AI in general. So, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on AI influencers. Do you think that it's smart to have these kind of influencers? Do you think it's hurting brands? Do you think it's actually beneficial?
Yeah. This is an interesting topic, and I feel like it's definitely one that people are seeing more and more of. For me, the place that I run into it is not necessarily my own Instagram feed, but it's more on LinkedIn of people talking about this or posting about it, and everyone kind of collectively freaking out at how realistic these people look. Um, and it is definitely a freaky concept because really they can look so similar. But I, for one, am definitely a little bit skeptical with these AI influencers' ability to replace real human influencers. I think it's something that a lot of people get really excited about, especially people who maybe run marketing teams that have a tight budget. Obviously, it's going to be a lot cheaper to create content with someone who's not human and just a robot than it is to create content with an actual human. However, how a lot of these systems work is you can pick your AI avatar and then really you're just inputting a script. And from what I've experienced with UGC creators is the magic of having a human UGC creator is they have so many inflections and different ways that they say things, different little sentences they say or bits they come up with that really make the content engaging. I think very rarely do I sit and watch an influencer AI video without it just being a total ad. And it's very obvious within the first 3 seconds that this is an ad and that this is a script and they're in one place the whole time. Like, it's really not, I don't see this replacing real influencers or UGC creators because while it is something to be excited about, and I can see the excitement around the innovation and how realistic it is, I don't think it's something that we can completely rely on or companies should put money into to completely replace human influencers. But I'm curious if you guys have any, if you disagree.
I've seen it work. Um, Whenever you've seen like they rip Joe Rogan and they pull him into a scene and he's like an AI that's talking about something for their brand. Like,
Yes.
I think that's
Which I
funny.
question the legality of that,
Oh
but
yeah, oh
I'm here
yeah.
for it.
They could get hella sued for that, right? So there's issues like that when it comes to like people's intellectual property or like their own likeness. But I think in general, depending on the style of your ad, it could be a good workaround for smaller agencies or smaller marketing teams to be able to have an edge to get in to do some creative. The problem that you see with some UGC creators is it can be really expensive and the results might not be great, right? So basically, what this does is it gets you a better baseline than even that's cheap, right? At least it's done. You have a version out there. It may or may not be great. Obviously, like good people on camera are going to always win. Good people who are captivating, they have an audience, they're an influencer. Like there's a reason why people follow them. There's a reason why people will act on what they say. Whereas an AI influencer is a computer and it's pre-generated. It's going to get better, but I still don't think it's going to totally replace things. Not to say that it couldn't be like a solid voiceover and you have great visuals that could tell the story. As long as you have good visuals and audio's decent enough, most people won't notice, right? Because there are some of those elements that it could be beneficial, but I don't think many people trust a lot of computers to like make total all their decisions. Granted, ChatGPT is like the ultimate influencer. You think about it, like, what do you think about this? This is my recommendation. They do that, right? So down the road, it may change. We listen to robots all the time. So I just think it can tarnish a brand integrity, though, at the same time. If
Mhm.
you are a very people focused brand and you're very, um, you care a lot about how you connect with people, it will hurt that type of a brand. Now,
That's a good point.
for some people, it's going to help the brand. There's, for example, the guy who used to own Bang Energy. You guys familiar with this dude? He looks like exactly what you think an energy drink founder would look like. Just imagine that suit, wearing a huge medallion with the Bang logo on it, and just like hyper as all get out. But he started a new after he got. I don't even know the thing that happened with why he's not part of Bang Energy anymore. But he started a new company called AI Energy. Every single video is generated with AI, and the recipe I believe for this energy drink was created by AI. So everything around that is AI generated. Everything. You guys want a weird LinkedIn deep dive? AI Energy. Go look that up. But for his brand, this makes total sense, right? Because
Mhm.
that's the shtick is this like new tech, and you're like mixing that with there. This is the most optimized energy drink out there for an AI. So if an AI is telling you that, like, they could help that brand. That is such a niche, random thing that I think it
Mhm.
hurts more other brands that helps. So
Mhm.
that's my 2 cents on it. I think um, it can get you a better baseline, but if brand matters a lot to you, I don't see it replacing a solid influencer or a solid UGC creator.
Yeah, I would agree with everything that both of you said. I feel like I don't see a lot of like AI generated influencers on like my personal feed. I just hear a lot about it. But I was looking up some of like the most popular AI generated like influencers on Instagram specifically. And I'll just share this. Um, Makila, I think that's how you say the robot's name, I guess. But I just thought it was interesting. I was looking through like her profile and everything. And I mean, like from like when you're looking at it like from like behind the screen, you're like, oh yeah, like this looks like, you know, a real person. But as you like go like further down, you're like, okay, like this is like obviously not real. But I would be interested to see how many people like actually fall for this, like how many people actually think that this is like a real person. Because I mean, if you look at it, like she has 2.4 million followers. It's like 2.4 million people that are following a 21-year-old robot living in LA, which is just so interesting to me. Um, I don't know if this will like, I don't know if like other influencers or will continue to like create brands like this or
Mhm.
not, but I just think it's such an interesting concept.
Yeah.
Um, I know a couple I it was probably a couple months ago we talked about like that dead internet concept. And that's kind of what I mean if we're having more and more AI generated like influencers and everything, that is what like social media is being led to, is that like dead social media, I guess. um like without like any real people with like real feelings and real emotions and stuff, it'll just be all AI generated. So I don't know. I would be interested to see like where this is at in the next couple of years. Um, but yeah, I don't know. So an interesting concept for sure.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I wouldn't be too worried about it. People are it's going to get rejected at a certain point, where people are just kind of over it, or it might get good enough that people are all just like, you know what, robot, entertain me. Okay, you know what, robot, think for me. Okay, robot, you know what, make music for me. Like maybe that'll happen at some point, but I just see it as like a I don't know, it's a fad. It's gonna like I don't know,
Mhm.
it's a fad.
Yeah. Yeah, that totally makes sense. All right. Well, Brennan, do you want to dive into the ad that you shared with us earlier this week? I thought it was really interesting. So yeah, we'll
Yeah,
dive into it.
this is gonna expose the type of stuff I watch on Instagram, like an old man, inside history, very fun. And the thing that's interesting about this particular um, piece of creative is in 2003 when in Chile they had commercials woven into the film because they didn't want to cut to commercial breaks to make it like cheaper. And it's actually kind of a fun thing that they show all these different clips of this beer commercial like woven into Star Wars. And I actually thought that maybe there might be some like relevance to trying to do something like this for a brand nowadays. This is clever 22 years ago, but if you did something like this and just perfectly woven to a scene that people have watched
Mhm.
before in the movies, it could really be interesting. So
Yeah.
let's watch it. I'll turn it.
You fought in the Clone Wars? Yes. I was once a Jedi Knight, the same as your father.
I wish I'd known him.
He was the best star pilot in the galaxy and a cunning warrior. I understand you've become quite a good pilot yourself. And he was a good friend. Which reminds me, I have something here for you. Your father wanted you to have this when you were old enough.
Cerveza cristal. Cerveza cristal.
They go through a lot of them in there, so I don't think you have to watch all of them to get the idea. But like it's pretty seamless cut. Not gonna lie, as a guy who likes editing videos myself, impressed. Even
Yeah.
for years ago. What do you guys think of that? Like, is that a way that people could like infuse their brand into a situation? Like, this is kind of fun. It's out of nowhere. You didn't know when it. I didn't know when it was going to come in. To be honest, like I
Yeah.
was waiting for an ad, but I didn't know.
This reminded me of two things. First was The Truman Show, if you guys have seen that movie, when obviously I feel like that was the prime example of this,
Totally.
of how, in Truman's life, everyone around him was subtly branding things, but that's because he was being televised. But it also reminded me of, in this last Super Bowl, the company Rocket, I believe is what it's called. They own Rocket Money. They had this commercial that had in the background, it was all about like coming home, and it was all about different shots of people and in their homes and interacting with their homes and all the fun memories that surround that. And they had in the background Sweet Home Caroline playing. Or wait, sorry, no, not that one. Country Roads Take Me Home.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yes. I don't even know the name
Not
of
Sweet
the
Home
artist.
Alabama. Not Sweet Caroline. Not
Country Roads.
Country
Take
Roads
Me
Take Me
Home.
Home. John Denver. Gotcha.
And if you guys remember, so they were playing that song and they had strategically placed it so that way when the commercial cut off, it cut to the stadium and it was a pan of the stadium and the whole stadium was singing Country Roads Take Me Home. So it was like right when the commercial cut off, it continued in this like pan of the audience, and that song had been playing in the stadium and everyone was singing it. So it was I feel like I love seeing brands play. It almost feels like breaking the fourth wall a little bit. Like Brendan, obviously the one that you showed us was like so unexpected and so kind of funny and cheeky, and it's not the traditional format of an advertisement. And I kind of feel the same way about Rocket's commercial was. Yes, it's an ad, but it's like interactive. It feels like it's like a 3D ad in a way. So I really liked it.
Yeah, I like the ad that you shared as well, Brendan. I like it because it just really catches the attention of the viewer, especially like in 2003 when Star Wars was like this huge thing. Because I mean, usually when I watch TV and like it cuts to a commercial break, I'm like immediately like off the couch, like doing something else. But because I mean, it was just Star Wars throughout, and then it put like the little advertisement in there, I feel like it caught a lot more people's attention. Like they weren't like, oh, okay, it's the commercial break, I'm gonna go get a drink of water or whatever. So I think that's I don't know, I think that's a really cool idea that not a lot of brands have thought of.
Yeah, you think about like product placement in movies. When you'd see like the random Apple logo or a Beats logo in Marvel or something like that. You guys ever notice that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beats headphones, perfectly. It's just
Yes.
when it bakes into the creative, it usually becomes a little more legit in my mind. So I think it's a fun way to get a hook. Maybe like pull a movie clip as a hook and then like stitch in something that is for your brand. Might be an interesting way to get more eyeballs on it, because it's also clever, right? It goes back to something engaging in the first couple seconds is always going to create better content in the long run. So I think there's a piece there, and then also it's a challenge as a creative person, as a marketing department, to see how can we stand out in a way that is unlike anything else. And this was a really good way to do that. So kind of good way to think outside the box in my mind.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, that is today's episode of Content Supply Live. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Let us know if you agree with our takes, what your thoughts on AI generated influencers are, and as well as ads baked into creative. And we will talk to you next time. Bye.
Cool.
All right.
That's the best part about